Good evening, sports fans. We are Dad Bods, Crab Cakes, and Sports. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to read some sort of opening about being middle aged and covering the Ravens, the Orioles, and all of that nonsense. But, however, we are all hyped up here. John, Jason, and Mike here, all hyped up because the Terps just knocked off Colorado State at the buzzer. Mike, are your feet back
I'm
on the
all hopped
ground?
up on Mountain Dew, Jacer. I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew.
I threw Uncle Chip's war medals off the bridge.
Oh, Mountain Don't, Colorado State.
Oh,
Sorry,
good.
buddy.
Whew. That was a tough one. I was like, I all day long I was ready for that game, and I just kept peeking in, peeking. I was like, oh, this isn't good. Why are we letting this team hang around? And it was a close one, but I mean that's what happens here in March, Mike.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I predicted a close game here, a close call, but not to pat myself on the back, but I'm doing that currently. But I think again, offensive rebounding caused the Terps some issues, and they got a couple second chance points that they shouldn't have had. And then the boys looked rusty again out of the gate. They got to fix that trend if they're going to have any shot against Florida next week.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about Florida. In my own opinion, I do have Florida as my national champion, and I just think that they are the most complete team in college basketball. So if they can't have these down periods of not being able to score the ball in the basket, John.
Yeah, they against the Florida team. They're not going to do that. They went what almost I think they went 8 straight possessions towards the end of the game without scoring, and then in the second half or in the first half, I think what about 11 minute mark between the 11 minute mark I think and like the 6.5 minute mark, Colorado was up 8-0 on 8-0 run. A team like Florida is going to go on a 16-0 run, and I don't know if you can come back from a 20-25 point deficit against a team like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've given this team credit all year long about their high IQ when it comes to basketball. But now this is the second game. The Michigan State game was the first one, and then this game as well, where Jacoby Gillespie seems to go to the basket with a little bit more time on the clock than I was hoping for. I mean, they had all. Not only did they have a big lead, well, they had a 4-point lead, but they also had the clock on their side. And he went to the basket on one, missed the layup, and there was like, I want to say like 9 seconds left on the shot clock. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, Mike, but I mean, those type of plays make all the difference at the end of the games like that.
Absolutely, yeah, it's an extra possession for your opponent. And when the games are that close, especially in March Madness, you never know what's going to happen. I think Colorado State, after that big 3-point shot, thought they had the game won. I know I was saying some choice words in my living room. I don't know about you boys. I hope you kept it clean for your children. But I know Jason smacked his son in the head accidentally, right, Jason?
Oh yeah. So as soon as the shot went up at the end, Derek Queen got the ball, started going to the basket, and as soon as he let it go, I'm like, oh, this could bank right in. And it did. And I jumped up, down, and put my hand down like, yes. And I didn't realize that my 6-year-old had just walked down the stairs and Cole got whacked right upside the head. And I went, oh no. I grabbed him real quick, big hug, and I'm like, "You okay?" He's like, "No, no, no basketball, no basketball." I'm like,
You
"Yes,
gave him the head
basketball,
top.
woo!"
You give him the little. Did you give him the too small? Did you put your hand down by your thigh and give him the too small after you swacked him in the head?
No, I mean we just pat them on the butt, send them on their way. Say, "Good game, you did well."
You know, it was exciting, and we've been on the wrong end of these, right? So the Michigan State game, the Michigan game, and then you see that in the swing of emotion from that last 3-point shot, and then Derek Queen with 3 seconds, they call the timeout, 3.5 seconds left or so. He gets the ball at the elbow, and he makes a guard move. I know they talked about it on the postgame show. He rips the ball, and he faces up. A lot of big men would back that guy down there, right, and try to back him down and try to either turn one way or the other, draw a foul. He just used his ridiculous athleticism to make a play, and then to throw the ball fading away from the basket and to hit the right spot on the backboard. I don't know if you've ever tried that shot. It's ridiculously difficult. So big props to him. And I want one more thing before I turn it back over is the Juju Reese free throws, man. He struggled with free throws earlier in his career, and he was 70-something% this year. And those 2 free throws with everything on the line, I can't believe how much ice water was in that kid's veins. So give him a lot of credit for the gumption he showed. Made a couple big baskets too down the stretch. So well done, Julian Reese.
Right. And, you know, it's funny. We can get back to the shot here in a second. But what I wanted to mention, and I don't know if anybody's really talking about it in the post game or whatnot, the possession where Blake hit the 3-point shot to give Colorado State the lead. That was good defense. Like they forced a pass out of one of the better players' hands into Blake's hands, who again is a great basketball player, but Queen had his hand up and he still shot it over him and made it great. He forced him to make it was a rainbow shot if you look at it again. But as far as the Terps defense goes, I mean, that was spot on. You know, you give players, John, what they earn. And I mean, he earned every bit of that 3-pointer there.
Oh, they did. Colorado State moved the ball very, very well. And Maryland wasn't like they were out of position or anything. They just, you know, sometimes you just miss the block by, you know, a small amount and it goes in. And you know what? The good thing with Maryland is you know, they didn't get down. They hustled the ball up the court, got across half court line, called timeout, got everything set up, and then the MFer took the shot. And you know what? Game came out the way that we would like it.
Yeah, and that's funny too, Mike. Just thinking about this, that how good a coaching that is. I mean, he kept that timeout in his pocket, knowing that this game, the way that everything was going, this could come back down towards the end. Having that in your pocket was the whole thing, because I saw him start running down, and I couldn't think all of a sudden, okay, do they have a timeout left? And I wasn't paying attention to the screen. To see where it was, and I'm like, okay, crap, are we going to do this thing where we run down and throw up a 40-footer and blah, blah, blah? But no, when he called timeout, I go, oh, this is good. And I text you guys right away, and I said, they have to go inside. They have to go inside, see what happens. Don't put it in the guard's hands and let them do some crazy shot. But yeah, Mike, I thought Willard there, that was very smart coaching move there.
Yeah, I thought it was very good, and it was interesting to hear him talk post game about what happened in the huddle. You know, a lot of times coaches might overcoach there a little bit. He said, "Who wants the shot?" And you referred to there, John, right? DQ said, you know, this MFer wants the shot. He referred to himself, right? But you know, it is what it is. Like you want your alpha to want to take that shot in the last second. He has to diagram something, obviously. But like the other guys were saying post game too, you move the ball. Let's say you set the play up, your 2 sets the screen for your 1, yada yada, etc. Eventually, it's the recruiting that takes over, and that's what happened, right? Your best player, who's going to be a top 5 probably draft pick, you give him the ball in his hand and you say, "Go to work, buddy," and that's what happens, you know. And you can think about all the great freshmen who made good runs in the NCAA tournament, like Carmelo Anthony and those guys. Same idea, right? You get the ball in their hands, they make a big play when you need it. So very impressed by Derek Queen tonight.
Yeah, and we talked a couple of weeks ago, Mike, when you and I did our best Terp memories of all time. And I'm going to be honest with you, this one now gets put up there with that Drew Nicholas shot. But even more importantly, like the reason why to me that they're on the same wavelength is Drew Nicholas was a senior that year. Blake was a senior that year. Now we have Juju as a senior, and Derek Queen's just a 1-year guy. So for that to happen, and you never know what happens with the transfer portal. So that like really raises the level of how important that was. And I mean, this team is still in the thick of things to be a national champion. Like they really are. It's at least the Final Four. Once you get by Florida, the next game, you know, we don't know what happens, you know? So, I mean, John, I don't know how high you are on them. I mean, I had them pegged as an Elite 8 team in our original pool. I kind of came off of it with my predictions because I'd like to win, but I don't care at this point. Well, I don't care about any of that. I just want to see the Terps win.
Yeah, I think that I'm watching this play over and over again on repeat while you guys are yapping, and I'm just seeing, you know what? Everybody's moving. Everybody spreads the floor perfectly. And Colorado doesn't crash down on Queen. There, as he's dribbling, the guy goes to the corner to, I think Rice is in the far corner or in the near corner where Queen is. And then Gillespie's in the other corner. Reese is just hanging out by the block. And none of the Colorado defense converges on Queen, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me as a basketball coach. I would say, Queen gets the ball, we're automatically sending two guys and we're going to make somebody else shoot the ball from outside and beat us. But I think that, the Terps got it when it counted. And then I don't know, did you guys find out if they were staying on the West Coast this week or not?
I did not see. That was my big question, but I thought I heard Willard say if they won, they were going to stay out there.
Yeah, that's the last that I had heard as well. But I just to tackle on what you were saying, Jason, think about what that does for not only transfer portal, recruiting. You're now in the Sweet 16 for the second time in 20 years. You've leveled up. Like you said, you level up. Maybe you keep some of those younger guys who were transfers again for another year, whereas sometimes you play transfer pong and those guys go back and forth to different schools. So that shot was huge. And, of course, they asked him, how he was able to make such a difficult shot. He said it's because he's from Baltimore. And I love that answer. I just love it.
Oh, man. No kidding. Oh, yeah. I just to kind of say what we were saying before we started and what John was saying. If you watch that play again, you obviously you have to watch Rice if you're Colorado State, because he's a 40% 3-point shooter. So you got,
and it could boil over if you don't watch Rice. If you put it in the pot and you take your eye off of it for too long, it can simmer and bubble over.
Big mess. Understandable. All right.
And Jason, I want to ask you this question because I mentioned this last time, and you guys both said the same answer. Queen's out there shooting threes. I said that's adding another thing to his game. You both said he just did that for the NBA scouts. What did my friend Jalen Rose from the Fab Five say? That Queen shooting threes in the game opens up everything else. So I would just like an apology from you two.
I'm not giving you an apology.
My analysis was correct, and your analysis was a little bit shaky.
Did he say urinalysis, Mike?
I didn't have a urinalysis today.
Me neither.
I didn't have a doctor's appointment.
Oh my God.
Your analyses, both of you, your analyses of Derek Queen and his 3-point shooting, I believe were off kilter and deserve some sort of an apology. Okay. Or, John, you know what? You are younger, but you are far superior in your basketball knowledge.
Slow down there, Junior. What Daddy said, first of all, was that I said he was doing it for the NBA. Mike actually said he was doing it because he was feeling it and he was hot at the time. Those are two completely different things. So Mike might actually lean more towards what you're saying. What I'm saying is I don't want my best rebounder on the basketball team, the guy that has however many double-doubles, standing out by the 3-point line and jacking up threes. I don't want that in any world. However, if he does happen to be out there because they're transitioning back and he's because again, what were we taught, Mike? We hustle on defense, we rest on offense. So if you're resting on offense, if you make it to the 3-point line, go ahead and take it, especially if you're making it like you are.
Right. And the way they run their offense, he's out there setting picks for the point guard and, they're doing the dribble handoff stuff. So eventually you're going to get the ball and someone's not going to step out. So it just presents an opportunity. Now, should that be their go-to play? Absolutely not. He wants to turn face up, pump fake, drive to the basket. That's what he did the last second shot, right? He wasn't going to settle for a jumper from the elbow there, right? Drive to the basket. And but you're right, John. John, you hear that? You're right in the fact that obviously making shots opens up the dribble drive because you have to guard higher. And then you can get by those guys. If not, you can sag off of them, and then it's harder to get by them. Yes, that is basketball 101.
Well, and the Terps tonight were 10 for 24 from beyond the arc as a team, whereas Colorado was 5 for 21. So that could have easily been the
Colorado State, John. Stop saying Colorado.
Sorry, I saw something about Buffalo. Oh, Buffalo
You
Wild
got
Wings,
your
and that
chest
got
all
me.
puffed out. You got your chest all puffed out about Derek Queen shooting threes, and now you can't even figure out who they were playing.
Well, I saw Buffalo Wild Wings, and that got me thinking about Coach Prime and University of Colorado. So my brain is
You're in Boulder somewhere. That's not where we're at.
Oh yeah. So anyway, Colorado State though shot 5 for 21 from beyond the arc, 23.8%, whereas the Terps were 10 for 24 for 41.7. And interesting, I think the interesting stat from this game totally is that there were only 22 total free throws shot.
They
And I
did
know
what now?
it-
How many free
there were
throws?
22 total
Hmm.
in the whole game. And Jalen mentioned that at one point in the broadcast that, you know what, there's no foul trouble in this game, and this game is moving because both teams are playing, good defense. They're moving their feet. They're not fouling. And, games that don't have a lot of free throws tend to move faster. Players wear out faster. There's not as many rest breaks, things like that, and Terps pulled it out, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, Mike. I did want to touch on this real quick. They said in the huddle, Willard asked who wants the shot. There's 3 guys on that team that comes to mind on who would want that shot. Could you guess who I'm going to say?
Rice would want that shot. Queen would want that shot. And I would think Miguel wouldn't mind taking that shot.
Oh boy, look at you. You know me better than everybody. Good job, Mike. Here's to you. Cheers to you, Mike. Man,
I'll eat my piece of pineapple and cheers you.
let me tell you, if I wasn't in this brand new house, I'd be doing that Stone Cold Steve Austin, cracking the beers and chugging them right now. I mean, after all this, it's crazy. Goodness
It's a good day to be a Terp fan.
Needed that one though, I tell you. I mean, I do feel like we do that thing every once in a while. We're like, okay, and whether it's the Orioles, the Ravens, the Terps, we just have a lot of disappointment. And this one, to me, anything can happen at this point. You go into the Sweet 16, and we'll see if they can survive the weekend. They what do they play? They play, I guess, next Friday.
I think
So.
I think if San Francisco might be Thursday. I'm not sure. I would double check, but
Oh, really?
yeah. So the interesting thing is, we twist, right? We go from being favored heavily 4-12 to being the underdog, and I love that little twist, right? The change in mindset can be really refreshing for a team that is coming off that last second victory. So I'm curious to see how they carry that over.
Yeah, I mean that's a good one, and I mean we'll do a little bit more March Madness overviews here. I mean, in case anyone's wondering, I am still alive in our my survivor pool because Derek Queen hit a jumper at the end, hit a layup.
Me too.
Are you in the same one?
No, I'm in a different one that's worth like $3, I think. But I did pick Maryland as my survivor pick today, so that was excellent.
I did have 2 to start, and I lost one yesterday on St. John's. I didn't want to pick it. I wanted to pick Purdue, but I couldn't talk myself into it. But yeah, I mean, I think this year the upsets really aren't what they normally are here in the first weekend. Now there's still a couple games tonight, but Mike and John, I don't know what's going on this year. No, I guess the biggest upset right now is the Arkansas St. John's game. Is that about it right now?
Yeah, I think
so.
I
think so.
Well, Mike, I think you called most of those 5-12 games. I think you had most of those picked out the other day.
I definitely had
Drake.
I had Drake. Yeah. Well, if you pick all of them, one of them might be right. So that's generally my strategy. So no, I had Drake beating whoever the heck they beat, and then I had UCSD trying to beat Michigan. They almost pulled that one off, right? And I had Liberty, but they didn't win because Oregon was better, a lot better. So I screwed that one up. So yeah, I think I batted like a major league hitter.
Nice. Well, I mean, with these type of things, it's always a crapshoot. We'll go through thinking we know what's best, and then you have the our kids being able to pick. Oh, speaking of Mike, where do the kids sit on their picks?
You know what I did? So you guys remember the good old days of brackets before the computers. Like I had them fill out hand fill out brackets. So we had the old green highlighter out and the old red highlighter out, and we went through and we're enjoying that exercise that we used to do back in the day. Josh has got lost 2 of his final 4. Unfortunately, Troy and Usfalapa or whatever it was called, the other team that lost, there was a combination of 2 teams that he picked to move forward. But they're out.
It was Francis, PA, wasn't it? And
Yeah, it was
somebody-
Alcorn State. It was Alabama State and St. Francis, BA. Yeah, so they didn't
Yeah.
make it. And Troy, and I found out why he picked Troy, which was interesting. It had to do with Minecraft and some kind of giant ball of Troy that he was talking about. So
Nice.
I got some insight into that pick. Unfortunately, he was disappointed, but he was happy that Texas Tech won because he had them getting as far as they are. So the kids are enjoying it. Seal did a good job. She's got Duke left. So unfortunately, Montana didn't make the Final Four, so we had to cross that one out for her. But she's trying.
There's always next year. There's always next
Correct.
year for the Montanians. All right. Well, I mean, we can get back to this March Madness stuff here. We have a couple news items just to go over that I don't know if this happened. I think it happened right after we got off the air. A couple things happened in the NFL. Of course, they can't go without having some sort of news. But Mac Jones, to the 49ers to back up out there. I know that a couple years back, there was a lot of rumors that Mac Jones was going to get drafted by the 49ers before he went to New England. Mike, I think it's a solid backup. I mean, it's good for the 49ers. I'm actually surprised that they spent the money on that position with Brock Purdy out there. I mean, they're going to have to give that man a contract very shortly.
No, I think it's a team and fit, right? I think he's a very similar quarterback to Brock Purdy. I mean, his arm is strong, but he doesn't have a cannon, I wouldn't say. And he's a game manager type quarterback, a lot like Brock Purdy. So fits the mold. He wasn't going to get a huge contract. I don't think anyone in the league views him necessarily as a really good, strong starting option. But I think he's serviceable, just like Cooper Rush that the Ravens have. I think he can win you a couple games if Purdy goes down, misses 4 games, he can win you 2, which is what you're looking for in a backup, at least in my opinion.
Absolutely. And John, I mean, obviously we always talk about if your backup has to play more than just a couple games, that's usually it for the season. But I mean, if you do need a guy just to come in and win a couple games, like Mike said, I think this is the right guy for them.
I think so. He fits the mold of kind of what the 49ers are trying to do. He has the experience of playing in New England, so I think he's destined, in my opinion. When he got drafted, I said this guy's destined to start a couple years, and if he flops, he'll be a Josh Johnson type guy who just kind of sits in the league for 15 to 20 years. Maybe plays a grand total of 30 or 40 games in that amount of time, but sits in the room and just plays the games that you need him to. But then he'll end up being a coach or something like that down the road. But I think that it's set up very nicely in San Francisco for a backup quarterback. Your weapons are still there. Obviously Debo's gone, but you still got the weapons. You got the McCaffrey and things that are still there to be able to help you out as a backup.
Absolutely. No, I think it's pretty solid for them. I don't know how, Purdy's had a couple little injuries here and there, but that should take care of that for them. The other big one was Jameis Winston agreeing to go to the Giants. To me, that's actually a much bigger deal than Mac Jones going to San Francisco because, I mean, Jameis will then allow them to draft whoever they're going to draft. And if he can get in there and, I mean, if you're a fantasy player, go and draft Neighbors really high because he's going to get all kinds of possessions this year, Mike.
Well, all of my neighbors are retired. I don't think I'm going to draft any of them, but I think Malik Neighbors might have, he might have a big year. But Jameis Winston, Jameis throws so many interceptions. You just got to be careful drafting him particularly. But if I'm looking at Jameis's stats, last year he had 13 touchdowns, 12 picks, 80.6 QB rating, 61% completion percentage. We talked about he is probably a little step above Mac Jones and maybe a little step above Cooper Rush, but right in that area. The thing is, he can make plays. Like, he can be a playmaker, which makes him a little bit different than those guys, I think. But he's also going to make negative plays because he's not afraid to take risks. But the Giants, though, they're in a situation where they need to draft somebody. They need to draft their quarterback of the future. So why not go out and get this guy? He can maybe show you what to do and also what not to do. Let that guy sit behind him, learn how to make plays. And then, eventually Jameis will throw 5 picks in a game and you'll have to turn to that guy. And hopefully by that time he'll be ready.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear to me that they're going to end up taking a quarterback as well, John. And I think right now they're pointing towards Shedeur Sanders. What I think this whole thing does with Jameis obviously playing the majority of the year, if not the whole year, or just backing up Shedeur, however far along they think he is, it resets the coaching staff in my mind. It automatically gives you another year, right? Because it's like, you can't, okay, well, we drafted this one guy and we have Jameis Winston. Like, we're kind of throwing this year away for next year. You know what I mean, John? What do you think?
Right. And I just was reading, they brought 3 guys. The Giants brought 3 guys in this week. They brought in Flacco, they brought in Russell Wilson, and they brought in Jameis. And I think exactly to your point there, Jason, is they feel as if Jameis can give them 2 years of at least some sort of quarterback play. They're going to get the good with the bad with Jameis, but it's not going to force Shedeur or whoever they end up drafting right into the game in the way that a Russell Wilson or definitely a Joe Flacco's what, 39, I think, would. So I think that's you're kind of reading their minds, reading the writing on the wall. I mean, you've had many more football seasons than I have. So, I think your knowledge of these things is very good, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, you want guy. I do think I know everyone says, well, if you draft a guy 1 or 2 or 3, you want to throw them out there because they want to see what they have. I just think that is the wrong move, Mike. Always is. If you have somebody in place that can kind of allow them to hold that clipboard for a couple of years, I always think that's a much better way to go.
Well, I mean, you look at Jordan Love, you look at Alex Smith mentoring Pat Mahomes. Like, it works better that way. I think it's just the transition's just a little bit better that way, and the expectations are more realistic that way. So I think it's just better off, because I think to expect not 18, but like the 21-year-old college student to come in and just automatically understand what's going to happen in an NFL game is a lot to ask. And even though these guys are super bright and they've played in pro-style offenses, certainly some of these guys have, that's a lot to ask to understand not only the jump in athleticism, the mental jump in the game, these coaches that are getting paid millions of dollars to teach the game, but also for you as a quarterback to be a leader on a team like that and to handle the emotional side of the game, to do that with all of that pressure on you as a top pick. That's a lot to ask of a young person. So it takes a really special player to be able to handle that. I mean, even Peyton Manning, he had a 3-13 year to start his career. It doesn't happen in an instant. So I think the Giants just have to understand what they're going to get with a rookie, and I think they do, and that's why they went out and got Jameis.
Yeah, and I don't see this as a negative move for them. I do see this as a positive move. Like the Cleveland Brown crazies, they thought they were going to the playoffs and the Super Bowl this year. So as soon as Winston came in, I mean, anything was better than Deshaun Watson. So, but this is a situation where it's like, look, man, you are biding time till we get this young guy up and running. And to me, that's a much better situation. Now, the opposite of young, as what I just said, Aaron Rodgers is apparently visiting the Steelers. I don't know where you are at, John, but I don't even want to talk about it. I'm just over this crap. Like, just go ahead, retire, wait your 4 years, and go to Canton.
Yeah, I think so, because if my memory serves me correct, I think the Steelers signed Mason Rudolph last week. So I don't know like what you're doing with your quarterback room because Aaron Rodgers, granted, he's got 3 good targets to throw the ball to in Freiermuth and Pickens and DK Metcalf, but he's 40 years old. When was the last time he won a Super Bowl? Like 2012, 2011. So I don't know. I kind of agree that he's got to figure out, okay, I'm not going to get the money that I want. I'm not going to get to the team that I want. So I'll just hang the cleats up and I'll wait my 4 years, go to Canton, and then, ride off into the sunset. Unless you want to follow your mentor, Brett Favre, and then go to the Vikings.
Okay, so I changed my mind. I've had time to think about it, Mike. So the issue in New York was that they gave him the keys to the entire organization. they let him make decisions that I don't even know what they were thinking. The Steelers organization is a class act organization run from top to bottom. So my thinking now, Mike, taking a step back, is that, okay, they're going to let him have the keys as far as playing quarterback on the field, but that's going to be it. And it might be able to work out, like John said, throw into these 3 guys.
Yeah, it might work out, but how long? I mean, it might work out for a year or two. Do you see it working out for 3 or more years in Pittsburgh? So to me, the question is, what are they going to do in they need to set their organization up for the future. My question is, what would you do if you were the GM in Pittsburgh? To me, I'd be trading draft picks to trade up in the draft and get a real quarterback, because how many years are you going to play this game? I mean, the Ravens went through this game in the early 2000s when they drafted Kyle Bowler, and then they had Anthony Wright, and the laundry list is long on my arm, the names of quarterbacks that played, Stoney Case, and but you have to have a quarterback, and they're going to keep putting Band-Aids on this bullet hole until they finally draft a quarterback that pans out. So maybe they take a quarterback in the 3rd round and it finally hits for them, and that's what works out. I think whatever they do, they have to take a quarterback in the draft this year. Aaron Rodgers could maybe work for a year if you want to play that way.
So, I mean, unless they're going to make some sort of crazy trade, and I don't even know what other quarterbacks are available at this point. I just don't. This is not the year to trade up in the draft for quarterbacks, unless you're going to get, even if you get the 1 or the 2 guys that are out there. I don't think this is a quarterback class y'all want to have, but those guys get paid an awful lot more money than I do to make these decisions. But to me, it's let it ride for a year and then see what happens. I mean, the Steelers are cursed with being a good football team every year, that they're never picking at the top of the draft. The same problem that the Ravens had. I mean, I think the highest pick the Ravens have had in the draft was like a 4 or 5 pick when we took Stanley, and that's it since the beginning of the organization. So the Steelers are the same way. Like, we do enough just to make sure that we don't get the upper echelon draft picks. But yeah, John, I don't think this year is the year. I don't know how much research you've done on the quarterbacks. I'm not impressed by Cam Ward. I'm not impressed by Shedeur Sanders. I mean, they might turn out to be okay in a couple of years, but I mean, if you're the Steelers, you got to have somebody in place, because I wouldn't turn the keys over to those guys.
So maybe you go after like a Jackson Dart, something like that. But you're right, Jason. The quarterback class isn't great. They're kind of in a real tough spot. Like, you need a quarterback for this team. You have to trade away draft capital, but you don't want to. How bad does it look if you trade away all that capital and that guy doesn't pan out, right? You look horrible. And then the only other option really then is to try to go trade for a veteran quarterback. Not many teams who have a solid veteran starting quarterback in his prime are ready to trade that quarterback. So unless you can, I'm trying to think of an organization where maybe Justin Herbert runs his course in LA, or maybe they get tired of Brock Purdy in San Francisco, but it's really hard to imagine any of those types of situations even happening. So, and that's what I think you saw from it, kind of a little bit on the older end, but Geno Smith moving from Seattle to Vegas. That's about the tail end of that prime that he's in, but it's not very regular in the NFL.
Well,
Yeah.
Mike and Jason,
Oh, there
for
you go.
next year's draft, the quarterback class looks better. And this is assuming that some of these guys come out. So Arch Manning is the top prospect for next year's draft.
We
and then
do
you got
fully support if they decide to come out, right, Mike? We
What did
support
you
that.
say?
We do support that lifestyle. If they do
Yeah,
decide to come
we
out.
support all people.
Just want to make sure. Go ahead, John.
yeah.
Continue.
So like if Arch decides to leave Texas early, if he gets to play, which I'm assuming he is, but if he decides to leave Texas early, then you go down the list and you got guys like Jackson Arnold out of Oklahoma. You got Carson Beck out of Georgia.
Georgia.
You got Nico Yamalieva from Tennessee. Drew Aller out of Penn State. Lenora Sellers out of South Carolina, and Garrett Nussmeyer out of LSU. So looks like they got a few more options next year of sort of the more typical Steelers kind of drop back passer type person. But a guy, like you guys are talking about, like look at a guy like Tim Couch, a guy like David Carr, very talented quarterbacks just dropped in the wrong spot, and then look what happened to their careers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we always run the risk, or not run the risk, but we always I'm dismissing this quarterback class, but like you said, Mike, like a Dart, somebody like that might be somebody, but I to make the big splash, it just doesn't exist at that where they'd be picking. Just to kind of touch here, and we won't do too much, John, because I know you're not involved, but Mike and I had a fantasy baseball draft tonight. I finally got Mike out of retirement to do some fantasy baseball, and we had a head-to-head league, a 10-team league, this evening that we drafted. Mike, how you feel about it? What was it like coming back?
I don't know. I want to thank you for reminding me about baseball and how hard it is to do fantasy baseball. The fact that we couldn't even figure out how to keep our keepers off the draft board it was a struggle to start. So I'm trying to keep a list of something over here and figure all this out over there. Plus trying to figure out if we're H to H or roto, trying to figure out all the terminology that I'm not hip on since 10 years ago when I just bid paper dollars on players or whatever. But overall I was confused, and I remembered there was only 10 teams in the draft, and there's 30 Major League Baseball teams. So there's like 30 closers and 30 first basemen and 30 second basemen, etc. Obviously 90 outfielders. And then I was trying to figure out, man, who's really good at baseball? And luckily the Yahoo net or the ESPN net, they all give you a bunch of players in order that they think they're good. But the problem is I don't have the experience to figure out those sleepers and things like that like I do in fantasy football. But Jason, I don't know how I did, but how do you think you did with your team tonight?
Well, yeah, let me just kind of go. I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. Obviously, you're having the first overall pick and taking like Shohei Ohtani. Pretty easy to get started.
That took 2 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So him, and then you had Jackson Merrill and Jackson Churio already. So I mean, those were your keepers. So you already started off really well. So no, I wouldn't give you had a little homer there with some Colton Cowser action. But Alex Bregman, who I think we both think is going to have an outstanding year. And then William Contreras, a nice little pick, or Wilson Contreras, pardon me, who can also play first base. So now you can take another catcher if you want. I think where this league, these type of leagues that I didn't mention to you because I didn't want to give away all my secrets, but if you notice, when we have to take 3 relief pitchers, you want to find the starting pitchers that also qualify as a relief pitcher, because starting pitchers will always score a lot more points. So I have like Clay Holmes, who's a starting pitcher, but listed as a relief pitcher. The other Holmes out of Atlanta, stuff like that. But
Well,
yeah,
your wife's a real estate agent, so I figure you guys would figure out the homes thing. And you moved like 5 times. So I know you guys enjoy different homes.
we do. We do. So yeah, I mean, no, Mike, I think you're gonna do just fine. You did get the young Japanese feller, the Sasaki guy. So
Yeah,
um,
Roki.
yeah. So John, I'm
So
sure you can.
the other thing I was having trouble with, and maybe you can speak to this, is you have a set lineup where you have to have one first, second, third short. There's a utility, a few outfielders, etc. But then trying to figure out backups that can serve like multiple purposes. Maybe speak to how you do that, because I was trying to figure that out as I went.
Yeah, so it's funny because when you do these, you want to always your bench. You want to be able to have guys that can play those multiple positions if need be. Like to me, I waited on taking my second base because Jordan Westberg was falling. He can also play third base, so it allows me then to not have to pick one of those positions. Be like, oh wow, I need to take a second baseman. Well, I'm like, well I can just plug him right in there because I picked four, so I did take Jose Ramirez to play third base. Um, Something that you might want to kind of watch because it's a shallower league when you only have 10 teams. A guy like Renhefo from the Angels, if you have a guy that doesn't play as much, plug him, pick him up, and then you can plug him into about 5, 6 different positions. So those guys are very valuable. But in a 10-team league, not as valuable because there's more studs. So when you only have 10 guys, they're like more studs are available. If you're in a 15 team or a 12 team and it gets deeper, or a rotisserie league where those have middle infielders, corner infielders, that gets a little
Chicken
different.
chicken
Yeah.
spinning on a spit. Yeah.
So delicious, like Costco. I love it. Let me tell you all about it. So,
No,
yeah,
you think I thought about some of that stuff, which makes me feel good that I was thinking about what you're saying. I think one of the guys I got was oh gosh, Michael, was it Franco? I can't remember. There's like a third baseman who played multiple positions, stole like 32 bases last year. I was trying to keep an eye on categories too, because I know that we had talked about you get points for the different categories. Maybe speak to how you distribute, home run hitters versus guys who get on base, total bases, or guys who steal bases, and how you kind of set up your team.
So when you do head to head, it changes the rankings. Like if you ever go back and look at see the rankings for rotisserie compared to the rankings for head to head, if a player strikes out an awful lot, like a Max Muncy, like or somebody like that that's going to strike out a lot, you get a negative point for every time a player strikes out. So the more that happens, so you want guys that are going to get on base a lot. They're going to get hits. So like a Jordan Westberg plays up pretty good. Yelich, guys like that. So those are guys that to me, it makes a little bit more sense. Like Juan Soto's huge, Otani huge, like guys that are going to do a lot of damage that way. It's not as much as like you want to take a guy that only covers one category, like say, oh, I'm kind of light on steals. That's a rotisserie strategy because you're like, okay, I need a home run guy. When you do head to head points, at the end of the night, it's how your player did. And then everything resets the next day. Now, those points go to your week totals, but they start the next day over. When you do rotisserie, that's when you worry about all these categories. Like, okay, so my average, I have what's his face? So I have Max Muncy. So he's going to hit a lot of home runs, but he bats 218. So now I need to take a Quan from Cleveland to be able to boost my average. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And the other thing I was thinking too is like I'm like that's 150 starting pitchers too. It's like, and I was worried about looking at maybe some of the younger guys who might make a splash, but like you had kind of said, I'm glad you had said it earlier. It's like you got to stick with the guys who are proven, because there's so many people available to pick up. If you need to pick somebody up, you can kind of, if you're paying attention, wait and see and get that on the waiver wire, I guess, as the season goes along. If there's somebody doing really, really well, you can give them a couple weeks and see if it's real.
yeah, and one of my top rules is I try not to draft guys that are hurt now that they're saying might come back. Or although my exception to that rule is Strider, but I didn't get him in this draft. But he was on my list of guys to draft. Him and Jacob deGrom, those are kind of my exceptions. Kind of high on both those guys. But as far as like not taking, I'm not real big. And I know you took Sasaki, and we'll see how that turns out. But I kind of stray away from the Dodgers because at any point they could go to a 6-man or even randomly throw another guy out there. So the innings that they aren't going to pitch. So you want to make sure these guys are at least pitching once a week. You don't want to all of a sudden go like the 2 pitch a week thing. It's so hard to predict. If it happens, it happens. And then sometimes you can stream that during the year, but you don't. I've never been real big on relying on just the young guys, especially not in a 10-team league. The deeper leagues, fine. You can go like, I think Matt Shaw in our league is still available, but there's other guys probably on your roster that are better right now. So
Right.
when it comes to
Shigano was the guy we had talked about. He was still available at the end of the draft, for example. But you could give him a few weeks and see how he does and go from there.
I would pick him up if you have someone to drop. That would be one that I would stash because he is I think he's going to be pretty solid, even if he just gives you like 15 points a week. I mean, that's pretty sweet. Like if you look at the starting pitchers, they score a lot of points. So just something to think about.
Well, I would continue to impart your knowledge, sir. I will be listening with an open mind and an open heart. So continue to instill baseball fantasy knowledge upon me.
Excellent. John, are you still awake? John, wake up. John.
Oh, I muted myself.
Oh,
I muted myself so I could swear and cuss at you guys because you were just like you compared Mike and I to the old guys from the Muppets last time, Jason.
Yeah, right.
More or less, you just walked into another one right there, brother.
Right. Well, do you play fantasy baseball at all or fantasy?
No, I play fantasy. I just do fantasy football. I don't have time to follow the baseball is too much. I can handle 3 nights a week for fantasy football. I can't handle that much for baseball.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of baseball, we did get some news here that it sounds like Gunnar Henderson is going to start off the season for the Orioles on the injured list there, John. So not the news everybody wanted to hear. It doesn't sound like it's going to be very long, but it is not what you want to hear to start the season off.
Yeah, I think it could be a lot worse scenario, it could be 60-day DL or something. And it's not like we don't have the players to fill the void of at least on the defensive side of things. And we talked about this a number of weeks ago that, we can shift Westberg, we can shift Holiday, we can move some guys around who can play, all 3 of the more or less skilled infield positions. And they can fill that void on defense. The bat, I think, kind of just depending on which Gunnar Henderson we get. But if we get, the Gunnar Henderson from April, May, and June of last year, that's a tough bat void to fill. But, I think in the whole grand scheme of things, it's a long season. Let's make sure that he's 100% healthy, 100% ready to go, and that this isn't going to be a lingering thing where he's off the DL, in the minimum number of days, and then 3 weeks later he's back on it for, 15 days. He's off and on all season long. So I would say keep him out as long as he's, even somewhat hurt, and then don't bring him back until he's 100% ready to go. But
yeah, and it's tough because not only. I'm sorry, just one
more comment was the thing about this is this could lead to some more good at bats and good things for Holiday. This could put a little bit more pressure on him, and I think he's up to it. And I think this could actually end up being a good thing for the Orioles in the long run of the full season.
Yeah, I mean, see, I disagree just a little bit. And the reason is because I think they're going to give him plenty of at-bats regardless of where he's playing. And it's just a question of, are they going to play him, Mike, against left-handed hitters? So losing a guy like Gunnar, to me, doesn't directly affect Holiday, except for the position he might be playing.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, you really look at the Orioles right now heading into the regular season. They lost their de facto ace, right? So Grayson's not ready, and you have your MVP candidate who's on the shelf. So I worry about other guys pressing to try to make up for that absence. So, the lineup, we have a lot of talented players, but they need to perform within themselves. What a Gunnar Henderson does is allow you to, know that you have that middle of the order bat. Sometimes he bats lead off, but he's a middle of the order style bat. So he gives everybody else the ability to relax in the lineup. So to not have that guy in the lineup opening day, you might be able to get away with it for a week or so, 2 weeks maybe, but at some point it's going to catch up. So we'd like to have him back as soon as possible. Gunnar, if you're listening, rest up. We need you.
Agreed. No, I mean that's a tough one to lose. Again, you're not just losing your shortstop, but you're losing your best offensive weapon as well. The other piece of Orioles news, officially, Gabe Povich was announced as the 5th starter. I know that the Orioles did sign Kyle Gibson here late last evening. So I don't know how all that's going to pan out. It sounds like there's, with Grayson being down, Mike, and the rest of them, there's plenty of room for all of them.
Let's put them all on board. Let's get as many starters as we can. You never know. Good old Kyle Gibson. He's a bulldog.
Hey,
and by that, I mean he's really old and has a saggy looking face. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, calm down. Listen, it's all
he's not
about
from Georgia.
He'll eat innings for us. He will eat innings, which is something that we need badly. How many years ago was he here? How many years ago was he here, Jason?
Not last year, the year before.
2 years ago, right? What did he give us? He gave us a good number. Good number of innings pitched, right? A chance to win most of the ball games he started, and that's all we're asking for. This is the kind of way that this rotation is put together, right? You want your starting pitcher to give you 5 innings and a chance to win the game, and you depending on a strong bullpen to wrap it up. So if he can do that, if he can fill in, for anyone who goes down, you got to also remember that someone else could get hurt. So you have to have that depth, that bulk pitching that you talked about, Jason, if you're going to use this strategy for starters.
Yeah,
but here's the thing. I just read this on X from, I don't know, some baseball person. They're like, the Orioles really didn't, and I don't know how much I agree with this, but the Orioles didn't really do anything other than add another number 4 starter to their other 6 number 4 starters. They didn't really do anything to upgrade what they already had. They just added another body who's kind of in that 3, 4, 5 starter mold. I don't know.
Why is your ex talking to you about starting pitching? I don't understand.
Yeah, maybe it's why you broke up.
Maybe that could be why. I was going to say, is that why you guys broke up in the first place?
Yeah, exactly. She wanted to be a 5th starter, and I thought she should be more of a closer.
Oh, fabulous. Good Christ. Okay. No, I think, look, I'm going to be honest. I know everybody in Birdland out there, and everyone's all like, ooh, it's just Kyle Gibson. Guys, I'm telling you, this is the plan. They're not going to go out and get you an ace because there are no aces available. Not right now. Wait till the trade deadline. Personally, I don't have any faith that they are going to bring in an ace that way because I don't think they want to give up the young guys. But if some of these young guys don't start panning out, you might see things otherwise. So these are the type of guys you should expect. And I think the Orioles, if Gunnar gets back, I mean, they could be one of the better offensive teams in all of baseball, at least the American League, Mike. I mean, they were last year. There's no reason why they couldn't be again.
No, there's potential up and down the lineup. It's just a matter of, can they all avoid going in that prolonged slump at the same time, kind of like they did at the end of last year. If and I think having a steady Westberg was something that they really missed at the back half of that season last year with the wrist injury. So, I mean, it makes a difference. I mean, it's bulk hitting too. It's almost like the bulk pitching. You got guys up and down the lineup. Any guy can go 2 for 3 with a bomb and a double and carry your offense that night. So if we get 2 or 3 going at a time, you're never going to get everybody usually going at the same time. But if you can get 2 or 3 guys in your lineup going at the same time, and then just pass that along as the year goes, we should have a pretty steady offense. And the pitching just has to keep you in the game.
Absolutely. And I do. I mean, I would like Burns to walk through that clubhouse door again, but I mean, it's not going to happen. I mean, so this is where we are. And I do think that I do have faith in the organization. I mean, not as much as I used to, but I think that with what they have on the field, they just need to play the games, see what happens. I don't know.
Well, then the question comes to this too: is do we need to grab a Lance Lynn or a David Robertson to come in?
They just did. They just got Lance Lynn, except he's Kyle Gibson. So it's like that was what they decided that they needed, so they went out and got him. And then they from there they'll make a decision if anybody else gets hurt. What makes me very, very nervous that we haven't mentioned here is how hurt is Grayson Rodriguez, and that's the big one because that will determine. And even Jordan Montgomery doesn't fit into that in my mind. I think I think Jordan Montgomery is closer to Kyle Gibson than he is Grayson Rodriguez. So if you bring him in again. Or bring him in, which would be a guy available. I don't know. I don't feel good about that situation, Mike. It makes me very nervous on what they could do long term.
Yeah, Jason, I think you make the good point. That's where they invested, right? They have a chance right here at the end of the preseason to see where they're lacking and to add a little bit of a piece there. And that they decided instead of going bullpen, they went starting rotation. And you might be right. Maybe there's something they know about Grayson that we don't. I hope not. But to add a starter gives you flexibility that you'll need down the road too. Because I have to think if they're in it at the trade deadline, they're going to be looking to upgrade starting pitching in some way, shape, or form. And to have another guy that you can lean on, whether to have somebody to keep if you need to trade somebody else, or you include him in a package or whatever, maybe pitch his lights out. Or maybe he can move to your long man. It just gives you options depending on who pitches well and who doesn't. So kudos to the O's for doing something here at the end of the spring training.
Absolutely. Well, the last piece of Orioles news that we have is yesterday they had 8 pitchers in their game combined for a no-hitter. And I know it's exhibition, but still kind of a big deal. They did combine, again, 8 pitchers. They had Zach Eflin got the start for 3 innings. Then Gregory Soto, Yanir Cano, Sino Perez, Brian Baker, Ronzi Contreras, and it was closed out by Riley Cooper, who was drafted in the draft last year from LSU. So, yeah, John, I mean, it's still an exhibition game, but it's still kind of excited that they threw a no-no.
Well, it is, and it's a lot different throwing a no-hitter March 23rd compared to February 23rd because March 23rd, more of your big league hitters are actually in the lineup, and you're not facing, fringe guys. You're beginning to face, the actual guys who are going to be playing in the big league. So that at least gives you a little bit of assurance that the bullpen is where it's going to be, that the bullpen is strong, and I think that's going to be what we're going to have to lean on all year because our starting pitching is going to be the big question mark that it seems like it has been for, a long time.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, Mike, it's one of those things where it's just like Eflin going 3 no-hit innings. I mean, you don't think of it because he kind of gets caught up in that mix there. But I mean, him and Soto right off the bat, guys that are supposed to be, and even Bake, like those 3 guys that are probably going to pitch a lot of innings for the Orioles this year. I mean, right out the bat, doing pretty good, even though it's just spring training.
I mean, it's great for confidence, that's for sure. Eflin's been pitching pretty well as of late. So to see him go, 3 innings, and I'd like to see him stretch these guys out a little bit, obviously, but I think the most impressive thing, and you said it, is Soto having a clean inning. Like I can't remember too many clean innings from that guy since he's come over in trade. And Ronzi Contreras has kind of had a tough spring too. So just to see some of those guys have success within the framework of that no-hitter is probably more important than the actual no-hitter itself. considering that it was spring training baseball. But again, John, you made a good point. It's a lot more big leaguers than it would have been, prior to March.
Yeah, and so I know we got to start wrapping things up here a little bit. Did you guys want to do blast from the past, or do you want to talk more about the March Madness tournament? What do you guys want to do?
Let's do blast from the past. I found a guy who
Congrats. Hope you two
I
are very
think
happy together.
yeah.
Well, hey, real quick, before we do blast from the past, just one more March Madness thing because I'm so excited still. I think my adrenaline's flowing from the Maryland game. Would you trade or change? Obviously, you might have a Final Four that you guys lost, but is there someone that you would pick now that wasn't in your original Final Four that's still alive and playing well?
All my Final Fours are still there because I picked all the 1 seeds. Because I do feel very strongly about that. Like it was just that weird year that I think that's going to pan out. I mean, if I did have to, I'm trying to remember what team. I think I might have. I feel very
so you have Arkansas, Michigan, Texas Tech, Maryland, Florida, Houston, Bama, BYU, Ole Miss.
I don't have all I have
Duke.
the big teams that you would still think of, like Alabama's still there. I don't have Michigan anymore. Michigan I had losing in the first round. But that's not even the team I would have chose. Maybe I wouldn't have been as high on Drake, although they did win their first game. Texas Tech, I did have winning, and I still have in there, and I'm pretty, I mean, I wouldn't change too much. I haven't lost any like real big teams yet, except for St. John's. St. John's.
I haven't lost. Okay. I haven't lost any teams either, but like the one team that intrigues me is Michigan. So like they went on that run in the Big Ten tournament, and they have been riding the high since, and they had to win a really tight game, right, to move into and beat UCSD. I just think sometimes, at some point in the tournament, you're going to have to win a really tight one. Maryland did it tonight. So that kind of gives you that inkling, hey, is this the team of destiny, that kind of vibe. But again, so Michigan might be the one where I'd be like, let's keep an eye on them, see what they do. And Arkansas would be the other where I'd be like, hey, like keep an eye on them too, because they had a huge win, over Kansas, and then St. John's. Neither of those are cupcakes. So curious to see what happens moving into next week.
I mean, I think with the St. John's might be the biggest surprise so far because I mean even though those are two of the greatest coaches of all time with Calipari and Pitino, but it's just that team, that St. John's team, just looked like they didn't show up, when it mattered. But to me, I mean, there's still a lot of really good basketball left. So, John, did you want to add anything to that?
Nope. My Final Four is still all in. And I don't think that there's been too many huge things right now. So I think this is a good thing to look at if matchups for Thursday and Friday. We talk about more of it on Wednesday.
Yeah, just an update here. I mean, Michigan State's in a tight one right now, 63-54 against New Mexico. And then Arizona 42-38 over at the half against Oregon. Obviously, I have the higher seeds in that one, but yeah, I mean, so far, not a whole lot has surprised me yet. I mean, we got a whole nother big weekend coming up, so I guess we'll wait and see. So did you guys pick your blast from the past, fellers?
I did.
Perfect.
Mike?
Okay, so
Yep. I have a fella.
Oh, nice. Well, just to give you all a heads up again, in case you're listening to the show for the first time, we do a blast from the past segment, which we mention an Orioles player that you may or may not have remembered was still on the team. He only played for a couple years, may have had a significant impact or not. So, John, did you want to go first, or Mike?
Yes, I will go first. Okay. Right. So this.
John, did you die? I think John's dead, Mike.
What did he say? He said this, and then there was nothing.
I don't know.
I bet he was going to say this Oriole.
Okay, is that better? My internet's been wonky tonight. It's been on and off.
You're there, John. You still here?
John, can you hear us?
John, did you take a cruise ship again?
Yep. All right.
All
Well,
right.
Mike, why don't
I'm,
you go first?
I'm going to go first, John. I'm usurping you, whatever that means. I think it's a vocabulary word or something. I'm not sure. So my Oriole only played for the Orioles for a handful of games in the 2014 season. He had was traded to the Orioles mid-season, and he played for a number of teams in his career. He wore the number 7, 11, 30, 12, 31, 45, 16, and 17. He kind of liked to change his numbers up. He played for Florida, the White Sox, the Orioles, the Red Sox, the Giants, the Mets, and the Nationals in his 10-year major league career. His career batting average was 260. He had almost 3 times as many strikeouts as walks in his career as well. But he will best be remembered in the Orioles 2014 playoffs where he batted 333.
Boy.
It's not Nelson Cruz. Nelson
Hey,
Cruz.
John's back.
Mike, can you give me the teams again?
Sure, I can do that. Marlins, White Sox, Orioles, Red Sox, Giants, Mets, Nats.
In that order.
Yep.
Wait, one more time. You missed one.
Marlins, White Sox, Orioles, Boston, Giants, Mets, Nats.
He hit 333 in the 14 playoffs, you said?
Yes, and he
Do we have a position?
He has outfield. He has a Hispanic name.
Oh my God. It's on the tip of my tongue. You said how many games did he play? You said he didn't play many games.
He did not play many games for the Orioles that year because he was traded to the Orioles.
Oh, yeah. Alejandro
Yep.
Diaz, right?
Deaza. Yeah, Alejandro Deaza.
Oh man, everyone was excited about that. It was so stupid.
All right, I got my guy here. He was drafted. He was drafted in the first round, 14th overall in the 93 draft by the Padres. Made his MLB debut April 28th, 1997. He was traded to the Marlins for Kevin Brown. Then he was traded to the Cubs for Hee-Seop Choi. Then Braves, Orioles, and ended with the Pirates.
Wait,
What position? Pitcher?
No. First base. And
Wait,
DH.
did you give a year for the Orioles or no?
Not yet.
Okay. Go
He
start
signed
it
as
from the
a-
beginning one more time.
Okay. Padres, Marlins, Cubs, Braves, Orioles, and Pirates. He was signed as a free agent with the Orioles for the 2011 season. He played 85 games for the last place Orioles, batted .246 with 12 homers and 41 RBIs. Then he was traded at the trade deadline for minor league first baseman Aaron Baker and cash to the Pirates. He won a World Series in 03 with the Marlins, won a batting title in 05, was a 2-time All-Star selection, and won the Gold Glove Award 3 times. Interesting fact, he was traded for Hee-Seop Choi. His father had scouted Hee-Seop Choi years before in Korea.
Wait, say again. What year did he win the batting title? 05? You said he won a batting title, right?
Yes, he won a batting in 05, yes.
Did you say what team was he on in 05?
believe he was on the Marlins. No, he was on the Cubs. On the Cubs.
What position did you say?
First base. He won his first Gold Glove in 03. And he only played 85 games for the Orioles.
I need more. I'm struggling.
Let me see what would give it away. He's in the Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame. He was on the 06 World Baseball Classic team for the U.S.
I think I'm. Derek.
He got enough.
No, not Derek
Lee.
Derek Lee.
Yes. I was going to give you this one. I was going to give you this last clue. He was involved in a fight with Cubs pitcher Carlos Zambrano in the dugout after the pitcher gave up 4 runs in the first inning and blamed him for failing to field a ground ball. Okay, Jason.
I remember Derek Lee. Well done.
Yeah.
All right. So my guy played 11 seasons in the majors. He played for the Reds, the Orioles, the White Sox, the Cardinals, and the Reds again. And he was a Rookie of the Year award winner and a 3-time All-Star. He played for the Orioles. He was an infielder, and he played for the Orioles in 1994. And let's see, what else can I give you guys?
I was going to say Eric Davis, but
no, he's an infielder.
He doesn't. Eric Davis was an outfielder.
Yep. So he had 3 seasons of over 20 home runs, 21, 26, and 25 home runs. Pretty stable player. He won a World. Chris Sabo.
Yeah, baby.
You saved me. I was going to give my 2 clues that I was going to hold in my pocket were the corked bat and the glasses, the goggles.
Yeah.
Actually, I had Chris. It was Chris Sabo or Derek Lee who I was gonna ask.
That's funny.
Eventually, we're gonna have the same player twice in one day. There's only so many to pick from.
I mean, it's been a long time organization. I think we can come up with a couple.
Yeah, but not in our lifetimes.
Right.
You know,
I can't believe the names though, man. Like we have barely skimmed the surface on all this. That's nuts.
Yeah. All right,
Mike, you want to wrap us up, my friend?
Yeah, man. What a great
show! One
show.
More dad joke about the Old Bay. My wife, my wife told me a dad joke. She said the reasons that the Terps start so slow is they're not taking the Crab 5 is not getting enough Old Bay in their diet, not getting enough shots of Old Bay before the game to warm them up. Ha ha ha! So funny.
You my friend need more seasoning to be good at your dad jokes. You
Correct.
Need some more dad seasoning. So
do better.
With that being said, I want to wrap this puppy up. That's going to do it for this episode of Dad Bods, Crab Cakes, and Sports. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Don't forget to subscribe on Red Circle, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're at it, leave us a review. It really helps us out. We're trying to spread the good word about Baltimore sports far and wide. Be sure to follow us on social media for more behind-the-scenes action, memes, and bad sports jokes. You can find us at dadbods_crabcakes_sports on Instagram and at dadbods crab cakes and sports on our Facebook page. Got a question or topic you want us to address? Hit us up at dadbodscrabcakesandsports@gmail.com. You never know, we might just shout you out in our next episode. Until next time, keep rocking those dad bods, eating the crab cakes, and never miss the Terps game. See you next week.
Adios.
Sayonara.